Hi everyone, I'm Natasha.
And I'm Nadia, and we have a guest today again.
This is Yulia. She's not in America like we are. She's right now in Russia, in St. Petersburg. Yulia, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Julia or Yulia. I live in Russia my whole life. I'm an artist. I work in cinema, and I think I know you, Natasha, for about how long? 15 years? I think it's
I know, I was
scary.
thinking today, I'm like, it has to be about 15 years, and then we never seen
Yeah.
each other. We just keep writing each
Yes.
other and communicating, and or from different platforms. And It's the funny thing, yeah, that's probably first of one time we're actually having like face to face, no?
No, I think that we Skyped, but it was just very, very long ago. It was
Yeah.
a couple times, yeah, and that's it. And we have just, writing something like letters. I remember it was like almost every day that we were interacting via email. It was so long ago. My gosh, yeah.
Yeah, my kids were very, very little. And pay attention to her amazing, incredible English. And she lives in Russia. It's her everyday
You know
communication
what?
is in
You know
Russian,
what?
not in English.
I was gonna say something, but then I said to myself, "Don't do it," because when people tell me like, "Oh, your English is so good," I kind of feel bad about it. There's like this double thing where it's one thing when people compliment you, and then there's another thing when people don't expect you to. You know? So half of the time when people compliment me, I feel like they don't expect me to, and that kind of makes me feel bad. So that's why I was like, let's
Yeah,
not say anything.
it happened. It happened a lot of times with me because sometimes when English-speaking authors came to Russia, even to St. Petersburg, some of the publishers they reach out to me, so I would translate interviews and meetings with people, and most of them they were saying something, oh my gosh, your English is so good, and I was, oh, yeah, thank you. I was pretty young when I started learning this, so I think it's kind of expected from me.
But it's
No, but
still different because you don't live in America. We live in
yes,
America. That's different for
100%.
us.
Yes, it's different,
Yeah.
but there's a difference between saying like casually saying, "Oh, your English is great, good job." And
Yeah.
then there's a difference when people are like, "Oh, your English is so amazing. How did you do that?" Right? So I feel like people think I'm dumb, and that's why they don't expect me to. And I'm like, "The fuck?" you know? So there's a difference. There's a way to say it. So, but yeah, definitely, your English is great. But I just didn't want to be one of those people who come off like that. So that's why I
No,
said,
I'm not paying any attention to it, so thank you.
And we're in
Natasha,
America, so we're very careful about everything. We're all walking around all kind of bushes
I know,
always.
right? You have to be
Yeah.
PC these days. Political correctness is a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Not in Russia.
you have a great big pink
That's perfect.
microphone right in front of you, which
Mhm.
is really really good for like blending in and not blending in. What do you call it? Like standing out, and it changes your background a little. It changes your picture. I love it. You see, I have my Stanley Cup. I stole it from my daughter.
Oh my God, you're old fashioned about
I
you're
stole it.
trendy.
I'm trendy, yes, because I stole it from my daughter. She got it for her birthday and she never uses it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to use it. So we're all pink today. Look at that. That's great.
Oh my God. And I have this huge cup and it's surprisingly it says mama, but I didn't get it from my kids. I got it at work.
What's inside of the cup? Let's see what's inside the cup.
It's a it's a lot of coffee, so yeah. I'm
Oh,
ready. I'm
coffee.
ready,
Are you
girls.
ready to
Let's
go?
go.
I don't know if I'm allowed to show it, but I have butts.
You have butts. They're just regular
Always
butts. Look at
welcome.
that. They're sculpted butts. Look at that.
Yes.
Do it again. Do it again. Let me see again.
There you go.
Look, you see, they're sculpted. They're nice and
Indeed.
I like that.
Indeed.
So
Listen, bots are always welcomed. The more bots, the better. The
no,
better
but
Yeah.
bots, even better.
no, but pretty ones, pretty one. We don't want saggy ones. No, we want the pretty ones.
Yeah,
No.
let's not. And talking about bots, let's switch to our subject today, which is going to be kind of bottish.
Kind of, yeah.
Delicious. But delicious. Dates. We're gonna talk about dates,
I
dating.
don't
Not,
know.
I don't know how Nadia is gonna participate in it.
I don't know how you went from butts to dates, but okay, I'll roll with it. I'm not
Some dates,
with
some dates are very like butts,
that.
saggy butts.
Like saggy butts. Okay.
I mean, we have to look at, at participants from all directions and,
Yeah.
but included. Sometimes there is a but. By the way, I don't know how it's, what American men butts are very different from Russian men butts.
Okay, that's
I think that it's got to be we have to compete them, but
Side
like
by
face to
side.
face, butt to butt.
Butt to butt, yes. But let's say, I don't know, Brad Pitt butt and
And
Mr. Haratyan. I don't know. I remember only very old generation of artists because I've been away
I
from.
think as of now they might be kind of look like
but I think aren't they the same age? Aren't they about the same age?
about
Probably.
about the same
they're
age.
probably
Yeah.
about the same age. Okay, but dating is going to be really hard for me to talk about because I have been married for we've been married for what, 16 years, but we've been together for about like 18, 19 years almost.
Oh.
So I really didn't date much, even back in the day when I was younger, because I met my husband at 18, and by 19 we were married, or 19 and a half, something along those lines. So I haven't been out and dating. It's rather interesting to me how these days, like, the paradigm shifts, how there's so many different new things, and there's so many like rules to dating that I'm not privy to. So I'm going to be listening in and chipping in today.
But it will be interesting to hear how you guys met and how did you date. You still had a few dates before you got married, right? So you had some kind of
That's rather
experience.
boring, and that was a really long time ago. So
I said, well, love to hear it. And I've been married for 20 years and I got divorced and I'm single for a few years and I'm on the dating scene. And Yulia, what about you?
I've never been married. I'm dating, but sometimes I think that I gotta stop doing this because some dates, they just don't seem to woo me, or even leave me at least satisfied. So sometimes it's rest. I need some rest.
a big thing
Yeah.
nowadays is who's paying for what. And this is what I'm
Oh.
saying from like social media, because again, I don't date, but like I see a lot of new terms like тарелочница, right? The one
Mhm.
Oh my
women,
God, I heard it recently. Yeah, I never heard of it before.
right? So apparently the women who go to dates just to eat like a nice meal, and then they kind of skedaddle and they never contact you again or whatever. But I kind of thought that people have been doing that before. I don't know why now they're termed that. The term is
Because of social media, and because men just started to become a little bit more whiny than before, and they decided to come out in the open and say, oh, poor me, I spent my money and she didn't give me anything.
You see, so that's
So how
something
do you translate it in English?
in English.
Тарелочница.
Plate
No,
person?
Letter.
no. It's more of like, I don't. The only thing that comes to mind right now is dash and dine, but that's not it. That's like when you just don't pay for your meal and you like skedaddle, but that's a little bit different. There's a term. Let me think about, but there's a term.
In
I know.
English as well? The term actually exists in
I think
English?
so. Yes.
Oh.
But I just can't think of. I just can't think of it right now. But in US, I hear a lot about women who get drinks for free.
Mm.
Like, it might not be necessarily like a date. It might be just like, they're out in a club, or they're out somewhere in a bar, and a guy approaches them and offers to buy them a drink, and then they buy them a drink, and then, or three, or whatever, however many, and then they just go their separate ways. And obviously the guy's upset because he's like, oh no, I just spent so much money on drinks. But I don't know if that's the same, because it's one thing when you're actually out on a date, when somebody invited you out to a date, right? Versus
Yeah.
you just kind of like come up to a person and like start up a conversation.
But how is it? So Yulia, you're going on a date. Does this question even pop in your head? Who is going to pay right now? Because before it wasn't even a question. Like, it was just obvious. It's you go on a date and it doesn't matter. It's the guy pays always. Well, never was a question. How does it work in Russia now?
I don't know how it works, everywhere in Russia, but for me, I prefer to pay for my coffee the first date that I'm having with a person. I don't like to go out on the date to a fancy restaurant for the first time. I really like to meet, about lunchtime and some coffee, and I really like to buy myself everything that I want. Sometimes sometimes a man just he doesn't understand it, and he's saying that, oh no, it's my treat. I'm not going to argue. Yeah, but for me, it's my personal thing, I guess. I know some girls from from my circle that really likes to go out for the first time in some restaurant, and they don't want to pay, and they just don't think it's necessary for a female to you know to pay for herself or even for him, because why would she do that? It was a question from a man, and it's his time to woo, to to be chivalry, to show chivalry. So I think it just depends on the mood of a person.
Okay, but does it depend also, like, if you like the guy, you let him pay. If you don't like the guy, you're like, I'll pay my way, thank you.
You know what? I don't like to go out on a date with a guy I don't like.
Well, obviously,
So
okay, but what if like you didn't know 100%, and then like in the conversation, and you're like, ew, like I don't want to meet you again.
yes, that's why I prefer to date first, go out to just to get some coffee, just to have a chat, and just to see how he interacts with me and with the outside world. Because sometimes when I'm in the coffee shop and he's saying, I'm gonna have espresso and she's gonna have cappuccino, that's it. It's a red flag for me. Maybe I want to have espresso. Maybe I want to have mochaccino. Maybe I want to have something else. Maybe I want to have champagne. Just shut up. Get your espresso and just deal with it. Everything I want to get to myself. I don't,
This
Natasha,
is so American.
Natasha, but does that sound familiar to you? Start bossing people around when you're on a date and you're like, you do this, let's get this table, let's sit over there.
That's talking about our the last podcast, right? Last podcast about feminine and masculine. Yeah, first of all, it's masculine, and we found out, and second of all, it's very American. By the way, it's very American. What Yulia is um, doing her date.
I
That's
think
very funny.
I think that men that do that usually don't really feel genuinely sure of themselves. They just want to show off their strength, and it's not masculine like at all. It's just toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there is a thing of
Interesting.
toxic
Wow.
masculinity.
Okay.
Toxic masculinity, the AKA here in South Florida, we know it as machismo, where it's a very Latin thing to do also. Like Latin men, they like to be like the tough guy. They like to be the provider, the leader, the conflict resolutioner, the everything. And so yes, and the woman is supposed to be the damsel in distress and be like, just like, oh, come in.
When I went out to filming some of the projects that I have, we went to Kafkas. We went one time, it was in Abkhazia, and the second time it was in Pitigorsk, and places around this. And of course, men there are completely different. They really they don't understand how a woman can just choose herself to pay or not to pay. And it felt really different. It felt more genuine, I guess. It's when we went to, I don't know, to a restaurant or to a coffee shop, and producers that were men from that region, they just didn't even ask us. We were not on a date. It was a business or some just chit chat about the project, and he didn't even ask us if we want to pay. No, it was like his rule. He paid for everything, and it didn't offend, and he chose what we were eating. It was not like he was asking, what do you want to get from the menu? He opened the menu and just ordered everything that he thought was appropriate. But it wasn't insulting or something else. It wasn't like he was directing us what is going to be on the table. But when sometimes men here do that, it doesn't look good. Just doesn't look good.
I think it has to come from a certain like you said, you know, like if it makes an impression that a man is insecure, right?
Yeah.
Because it comes from a place of insecurity versus it comes from a place of, you know, I'm a host and I'm going to show people a good time, or, you know, I'm going to take
Yeah,
care of
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
people as a host, you know, because I
Yeah.
want to be hospitable to them, which is a totally different point of start, right? So
Yeah.
intent is number one, and then followed by the action, and that's why the action can be interpreted in different ways, and it can be taken as, you know, oh, I want to show off and I want to take control, versus, you know, I'm going to be graceful to my guests and I'm going to treat them, and it's all good time and everybody's happy. Yeah, that's a very big difference.
It's very interesting for me because what Yulia said right now, it seems like in Russia, I was born in Kazakhstan, then I moved to Russia. So I left Russia 24 years ago. And when I came to America, in America, every woman was fighting for the rights to show independency and play for themselves. And now it's going in opposite direction. Women are actually trying to get their right to be women back, and they're fighting for the men to pay for them. Which in Russia, I see the opposite. You guys are starting to actually trying to find your way and show your independency in like, I can do it, I can pay. Like in America, it's already like kind of going down.
Maybe, but I'm still thinking that we are a little bit more conservative in every aspect of the way. We have less feminists than in America, but we don't have radical feminists that think that if a man opens the door for you, that it's some kind of attack on your strong character, and he doesn't really know if you can open the door for yourself. No, it's just it feels like a genuine respect when the man, you know, gives you the seat in the bus or in the metro just because you're a girl. And we don't feel that this is something that we should fight. Yes. And when they don't do this, oh yeah, then it feels like he's someone I would never date, or, you know, I would never want to have around because he's just rude.
Yeah, it really became this. You think it's just one little thing, just opening the door or moving a chair for you, but it's actually became this huge deal in America when the radical feminists started really fighting it over and like, oh, don't do it for me. I'm a strong woman and can do it myself. And now it's very difficult. Women don't do. A lot of women don't want to do that, but men kind of used to it, and they're confused a lot of times. They're confused, like what should, like they're losing their role in the society, and or communication with women, they don't know what to do. There's just so much confusion going on.
It's a very thin line between, you know, not wanting anyone, any male to, you know, give you his shoulder to lean upon, or to open the door, to pay, to, I don't know, do whatever, and to just flat out fight it and say that if he does this, then he somehow humiliates you. It's a very thin line, and, you know, you got to balance in all this, because if a man here in Russia, a lot of families, they still live like our parents did. Man gives money to the wife, and she manages, you know, the budget, the family budget. Of course, he is, you know, getting his own money, and it's not like he's coming to her and asking, you know, honey, I really want to smoke, can you give me 500 rubles and I'm gonna go and get myself a pack of cigarette. No, of course not. But yeah, everyday life, it's a woman still manages all the, you know, things. I'm not saying that it's 100% of the families does that, but most of them.
Still most
What
of them.
about you, Nadia? Who handles the money? Who got the money in the family?
No, but you see, and I don't know, we're a weird family, and, you know, and a lot of people look at us sideways, and they're kind of like, why, right? Okay, and which I understand, and I fully acknowledge that we're not a very traditional, quote unquote, family like that you would expect, right? We're intercultural, we're I want to say interdimensional, because So my husband's Ukrainian, but not only he's Ukrainian, he is also older than me. He is a lot older than me. We have a 26 years age gap. And a lot of
Mm.
people, number one, they were saying that, oh, it's not gonna last. From his side, from my side, a lot of people were saying it's not gonna last. You guys are gonna be together for a little bit and then you're gonna go separate ways. So we've been together for almost 19 years now. Um, some people are still saying that I married him for money. I wish I married him for money. I really wish. I really wish I could be this trophy wife whose biggest problem is to find a new place where to put Botox in. Okay, I swear, I wish, but no. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the millions that everybody thinks he does. He has. Maybe one day, if he wins the lottery, that'd be great. But the whole point is that we're unconventional, we're non-traditional in many ways. And in our family, we both have our own money. So I work, he works, he has his own money, I have my own money. And a lot of the times there were times where I had to be the main breadwinner in the family when he was sick, when he got out of a job. And people don't know that. And again, they judge from the outside and they think everything was provided to me by my husband, which kind of
Yeah.
makes me mad a little bit in the sense that, like, what the hell? Like I did what I did, what I needed to do.
For this money.
Exactly, just like that, right? Beating myself in the chest and being like, I did that. But whatever. And now we're in a place where, and also I think again, it's a dynamic thing. At some point when I was paying for a lot of the things because he was sick, because he was out of the job, he kind of got used to it a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got back on a horse, right, he kind of he never fell back into this habit of like even
Yeah.
asking me, like, do you need help? He kind of
Yeah.
assumes that I can handle myself.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes it kind of makes me feel a certain way because I'm like, okay, sometimes I want you to ask me, hey, do you need help paying for a trip or for something, because I'm usually the one who's planning vacations. I'm usually the one who buys tickets, for concerts and things like that. So sometimes I do feel like, it's kind of sad. I would want that attention from my man to say, hey, do you want to split the bill or do you want me to pay for this?
Now here's your like $50. Do yourself a manicure. Get yourself a manicure,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Here's
Yeah.
some money
Yeah.
for whatever.
Yeah.
But again, and I'm not the kind of person who can ask either. This is my fault, right? Because
Yeah. You have to self-train yourself.
being able to ask is also a skill, right?
Yeah.
Being able to
Yeah.
ask your man for money. So I don't know. I'd rather go and work more or like find a side job or do whatever it is that I need to do to get my extra money that I need. I wouldn't go and ask. I don't like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot in America, it's a normal thing to have your personal bank accounts. Like people don't share bank accounts anymore. I had my separate account with my ex, and a lot of people have separate accounts and also an account together for like pay for basic stuff. And that also makes things easier because people try to protect themselves now for in case of separation or divorce. That's so the money won't be stolen. And in Russia, it's not the same, right? You.
No, it's the same. People have their own separate accounts, and
Okay.
like деньги в тумбочке,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
some money, yeah,
Mine
and the
has to
money
do with that.
for
Okay.
yeah, and the money for family budget, and a lot of girls. I wouldn't say that every girl in Russia works, but it's impossible. But I think that majority works, and also bringing the money based on what they earn. They can have this money just for themselves, because my money is my money, your money is my money. But sometimes they also contribute to a family budget, and I think it's a normal. We have such a diverse country that a lot of people just they do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, but then
Yeah.
talking about earning money, right? Even we're talking about, oh, USA is such a progressive country. Oh, feminism and yada yada yada, whatever. But still to this day in this country, women earn less for the same type of jobs compared to men. Still,
Hello from Russia, it's the same.
disparity, right? The difference between for the same type of job, a man gets paid more just because he has balls, basically. Right? which is kind of still not fair, right? So it still exists, right? The inequality still exists. We still have to kind of like maneuver our way around it. And as much as you want to say, oh, now, yes, we're sharing the responsibility for a household, the men are also contributing. They're also like, washing dishes or whatever. Okay, fine, still. But in the end, who is the one who's going to have to take time off work to bear children?
Right. Exactly.
You
I had a
like
I had a I'm sorry, I had this date. I wouldn't call it a date. I knew this person before, and he was asking me out for many times, and I said, okay, coffee time. Coffee time it is. And that was the first and the last coffee time we both had, with each other, because of that particular thing that Nadia was just talking about. Who washes the dishes? Who does the laundry? And he was saying this atrocious things like, it's the woman's work. And he
Yeah.
was so sure about that. He was so, full of himself. He was so passionate about that I genuinely wanted to see his mother. I genuinely wanted to look her in the eyes and ask her, how could she raise such a handicapped man that doesn't even know how to open the freaking refrigerator by himself? It's
okay,
awful, and it still happens here a lot.
well, of course it does everywhere. But say, for example, if he says that, housework is for women only, but does he expect his partner or his wife to work?
Yeah, that's just the other thing.
If he says, I'm going to make all the money and I'm going to provide above and beyond, and I'm going to give you money for, for the living, to take care of yourself, for vacations, etc., but your job is to keep a house, right? And again, yes, it takes a certain kind of woman to want to do that.
Yeah.
Not all women want to do that. But again, is it a fair trade? Or he says, you have to go to work, you have to contribute 50% to our family budget, and you also have to do all the housework.
We didn't get that far, but based on his character and how he lived his life, I'm very it's a doubt that he could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Woman, she has to work also and bring money, kids, presents for his mother, and etc., etc., and
And more.
Yeah.
yeah, and more.
I remember now. I was always very ambitious. Like I was probably too ambitious and too independent when I lived in Russia. When I moved here, I started working in a store. Like my first job was in a store, Banana Republic store. I had no English. I need to learn my English, and that was the best place. So there was a girl, and she was young. She was like 18, and very beautiful girl. And we were talking to her, and she started to date a guy from the store, also handsome guy. I don't know where they are now. And she was telling me, I don't want to work. I want just to have kids and be housewife, take care of my house. And I'm like, what? In America? No. To me, it was such a shock because in America, to me, like would be normal for me at that time in Russia. But in America, I was like, no, 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 no. This is something wrong with this girl. But like now, it's more and more women come to this decision. They actually want to have kids and sit at home, take care of them, and it's impossible here, basically. But yeah, it happens in America.
I don't have TikTok because I don't want to spend a lot of time, scrolling. But even I know about this trend of treadwife. Is
Yes.
this really popular?
Yes.
What is it again?
Yes. There's like a whole movement about that.
What is it again? Tell me.
Trad wife, traditional wife. It's sort of like, remember back in, I think it was like what, 60s, 50s, Susie the homemaker?
Mm-hmm.
Susie the homemaker in a little apron, and that she bakes her own bread and
Yeah.
I don't know, milks cows. I don't know what she does. Things like that.
Milk cows.
Yes, which is which is interesting. I read this thing somewhere again on social media, right? I get all my news from social media, which is horrible, but don't judge.
Me too.
It's faster.
Right? It's faster. So I read this thing where historically, after World War II, when men started coming back from war, during World War II, obviously, a lot of them were shipped out from the United States and they were out there fighting. And then when women came into the workforce, they were doing a lot of jobs that there was nobody else to do because men were at war. So when the men came back, America had to make those jobs positions available again back and give it back to the men. So this is when they started this to the homemaker trend type of thing, where they said, this is the ideal wife, and this is how she's supposed to look like, and this is what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to serve the children, serve the husband, cook meals 3 times a day, freshly made, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is actually where that came from. Because I thought it was just like because it was just culturally like that. No, turns out it was after World War II because there was no jobs for men. Women took all of the jobs. And so they decided, whoever they are, right? The government, the conspiracy theory, whatever, I don't know who.
Right,
But
right.
they decided to give women, to sell women that idea that, hey, you're supposed to stay at home, raise the children when the man is supposed to go out and work.
We had this book in USSR. I don't remember what particular time it was. It was before 1950s, I guess. And there was rules for a wife that meets the man that comes back from work. So children, I can't quote, but it was something like children has to be combed and washed, and meet their father nicely dressed. The wife should be also neatly and nicely dressed. Of course, hot supper on the table. And it was something about this was a little thing for a man, not for a wife. After you done the deed in the bed, let her go out in the bathroom and cry. Don't come out, don't ruin this for her. So I guess this kind of things, they were quite common, worldwide.
Why was it assumed that she's supposed to cry?
I think that because man didn't know how to do the deed.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Or also to relieve all of the pent up tension, right? Because she has respect. She can't say anything. She always has to be in good mood, right? So I guess at the end of the day, she's allowed to cry. Okay. I guess
Stepford Wife. Remember that movie Stepford Wives, when they made robots out of women and they wore these 50s dresses and acted like Susie Homemaker? We switched to the talking about money, and I think it's one of the most fascinating and interesting things to talk about, because you cannot live without our money, obviously, and everyone has very different traditions and views on that. But if we're switching from money to our first subject, date, right? I do watch TikTok like you girls do, and news and everything. So there is a channel that it's either St. Petersburg or Russia. So the guys ask people in Russia what they think about certain things in America or in Russia, and then somebody else does the same in America, and then put this video together, like one after another, And so they ask this question: who pays on a date? And on the first date, whatever. So every girl in Russia said, guy, of course, man, of course. Well, I'm a girl, and I'm not gonna pay on the date. In America, every single guy said, didn't say anything that he's gonna pay, but they said, oh, whoever invited first, whoever makes more money, I don't know, you split it 50-50. And
some little princess.
None of them said, I'm gonna pay. No, they actually asked a couple of guys from Russia. They said, I'm gonna pay, of course. But it was such a huge difference. But also, I think they kind of chose people to ask because they would kind of less conservative, more liberalish kind of. Probably if they ask older people in suits, maybe would be different answer. Because older generation, I never paid on dates, never once. And I'm for me, it's I know that I would pay now. That would be sad for life. It's gonna be done. And as a Yulia, I also do only coffee for first date. Only coffee. I would never.
Most of the time, yes, it is a coffee. Sometimes when a person I really like and he's saying, well, let's go somewhere nicer, it's fine with me. 95% of the time he's paying. Only if I want to pay for myself.
But you see,
I never did.
I've been out of the dating scene for a really long time, but just imagining if I had to go on a date right now and I would have to date someone, I would probably not, I would fight to pay for myself until I feel very comfortable. Until I feel comfortable that I really like this guy and this is a a relationship that can go on further and it's not just like a fling or whatever, I would be paying for myself until that particular moment, and then when I feel comfortable, then I would let him pay for me. I would not. I don't know. I have this thing, but even from like because I was raised in the same time and place, right? I'm born in USSR, everything, but even then, I remember my very first date that I went on when I was what, like 16, 17. The guy paid for me at a cafe, but I felt so bad. I felt so bad. It was such a disgusting feeling inside. I still remember it and I hate it to this day. I felt like,
Wow.
ugh. It was ugh. And to this day, shit, like I'm still getting like goosebumps and shivers. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't know where that came from, but I have that thing inside somewhere. Like I have a
No, if a man thinks that he owes you now, if a man thinks that after he paid something that you have to do something for him, that's not just a red flag. It's just, it's running away. And I think it's shown on his face. So I would pay for myself this time because, it's kind of silly. Okay, I'm asking you out and I'm paying for you. And then what? I'm going to say, you know what? I paid for you. So I have to refresh my apartment. Take your tools, take your time, and start working. Is this how it works? It's not. So yeah, it's kind of, sometimes when I see this itchy feeling that when I have this itchy feeling that this guy, he doesn't really understand that this night out is just a night out. It may not lead anywhere. It's safer to just pay for myself.
That's true. And again, that also comes back to safety. No matter where we live, no matter like in what kind of progressive country you live or whatever, no matter how safe, quote unquote, it is, right? Women still don't feel safe a lot of times because it doesn't matter what you do. Majority of men are physically stronger than a woman.
Yeah.
And
but how is it going to do for coffee? Like, how does it physically will make you more unsafe if he pays for coffee?
no, because okay, in any type of situation where if it's a daytime, there's a lot of people outside, whatever. But if you came in one car and he's your ride home, for example, right? So there's that situation where you're unsafe. There's many different scenarios where again you can be unsafe with somebody who you don't know exactly, because dating usually constitutes going out with somebody that you don't really know well, right? You can be talking for a little bit, but it's not like your longtime friend or whatever most of the time.
Right.
Um,
And when you meet up on the dating app, it's completely different story. You don't know this person at all.
yes.
Even if you were talking to him about a year or something, you just don't know how he will react. And there's a lot of funny stories, not about me because I don't use dating apps. I just don't like them. I don't feel confident enough that I would find out that this person, that he's a total cuckoo. And that's why I really like to meet a person when I'm somewhere in some companies and things like that. But some of my girlfriends, they actually use this type of dating. Some of their dates, they were absolutely hilarious. Like from the people that didn't want to meet at all, they wanted to have an online sex. They wanted to talk about everything. They wanted to, face up. But they didn't want to get out of their apartment and meet in person. And it was just like, let's meet the next week. And the next week, oh, I can't. I'm sick. Oh, achoo. Let's meet next week. And it went on and on and on. And the funniest date, it was a friend of mine. She met this guy on a dating app. They talked. She liked him. He liked her. And they decided to meet. And he asked her to meet on a parking lot near the supermarket, and she was saying something, well, okay, maybe it was convenient for him. Okay, I don't know.
That's strange.
Yeah, and she was waiting for him in her car, and he came to her by foot, and he was saying something like, my paycheck didn't come this week, so I'm sorry, I don't have money. I can't treat you with coffee, but can you buy me groceries? She laughed so freaking hard. Can this be equivalent of тарелочница?
This is even worse than тарелочница. This is even worse.
Yeah.
Wow,
She laughed so hard, and she bought him groceries, and she just blocked him
God bless
everywhere.
her
But
soul.
that was, yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh my God. Well, I am on dating apps, okay? Because it's impossible, honestly, to meet people in real life. It's very, very difficult. And I don't know how many days I have to tell you how many coffees I had. Um
But you like
yeah,
coffee.
and tons of free coffees, tons of free coffees. But it's different. First of all, in America, it's different because there's more men than women in America.
Mhm.
More men than women on dating apps. Probably like a huge percentage, like women, because women are afraid to go on dating apps. And I learned on so many like things, and I have my personal boundaries. I have my rules. Like I don't have my name. I don't have my real name. I probably talked twice to a person before a date. It never brought me anywhere. It just doesn't work. I don't exchange my phone numbers, and I go for coffee and I meet at public. So that's how I eliminate. Like one time I was sent flowers to my address to a person who I had one date because I gave him
Ooh,
my phone number. It freaked me out. It freaked me
yeah.
out, and he thought he did something good because he found my address on the internet. Okay, and I'm like that evening I was sitting in. On the internet, taking out all my information from all possible sources so no one could find my address anymore because I was completely freaked out by these
Yeah,
flowers.
that's little Sherlock Holmes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I don't need any Sherlock Holmes here. No, thank you very much. And next time he's knocking on my door, right, in the middle of the night. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like a lot of rules, and but it's still very difficult. There's a lot of freaks, and in America, I'm sure in Russia it's the same. And one of my very first date girls, I'm going to tell you this story because I'm not going to tell you obviously a lot of them, but this is funny because this guy, first of all, remember it's one of my first days. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how it works. So I go to the coffee shop and I remember the guy from the picture. I know his age, everything. And I go to the coffee shop. I look around. There's no one here. There's only one grandpa and a couple of women with kids. And all of a sudden, this grandpa, stands up and comes towards me. But kind of like barely walking. And I'm like, no, no, that's not you, right? That's not the guy. And that was a guy
Oh my.
about 20, 25 years old and on his pictures, but that's not it. He also like was abducted by aliens.
Oh,
And
was
he's
he probed?
like communicated with aliens all the time. He
Yeah.
gets the signals, he has the sight. So yeah, you
Okay,
never know.
but you see, but he was not wearing a foil hat, was he? So he wasn't all the way cuckoo. He was just halfway.
Maybe he had, foiled pants, underpants.
Oh, that's true
We don't
too.
know. Yeah.
Maybe he was in the car.
Did you check, Natasha? We need to know. Did you check? So I had.
But it was very interesting. I have to tell you that was very, very interesting to listen to him. And he was like selling boats, like yachts. I'm like, how do you function? And
Well,
I'm like,
I mean, he's selling it. He's not building it, so it's okay. You could do that. So I have an interesting story too. So when I was in nursing school, one of my professors, she was about like 60, 63, around there, and she was dating through the apps too. And she says it's so hard to date as a medic, as a person who comes from medical background. And I says, but why? And she says, because every time I go on a date, the first thing I do, I look at them from head to toe and I make my assessment. Are they healthy? If they're not healthy, I don't want to date them. Because she says, I don't have much time left. And the time that I do have left, like living and enjoying myself, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be a nurse to my partner, to my boyfriend. I want to be a girlfriend, So she
Yeah.
very practical.
if they don't have any hair from like a certain line, they have bad circulation. They have bad circulation in their feet. Well, guess what? They probably have bad circulation in their heart. No, that's a heart attack waiting to happen. Cross that out. Then the next one, this one has this one. It was so funny. And she's like, it's so difficult out there. You can't find any healthy people.
I think she's gonna be single because it's impossible right now nowadays to find a healthy person, especially with a hairline. Unless they did a surgery, hair restoration surgery, then she's gonna miss that, kind of a health problem. They're gonna lie to her. I want to ask something, Julia, about tell us any of your like funny dates. Does anyone ask you to buy groceries?
No, nobody asked me to buy any groceries. And I can't say that I had, like a lot of funny dates. One of the guys, after the first coffee and the second coffee, he asked me to go out on a bicycle. And it was a joint bicycle. And I didn't know how to actually function on this bicycle. And we went for a very, very, very long walk. I mean, ride. And the next thing I know, I was getting home by train because I just couldn't function anymore. So he was like, maybe you should have asked me if I know how to ride this joint bicycle. Maybe you just could have asked me this. So sometimes people are just very funny, but I cannot say that I had, worst dates or great dates. I didn't get any alien abducted people. I didn't get, witches or warlocks, but I think that nowadays a lot of girls might come up with the stories because a lot of people right now in Russia, dig in the esoteric themes, and I think that this gothic vibe is coming back a little bit. So yeah, there's sometimes you see the guy, like a bit more masculine emo from the early 2000s, and it's kind of cute.
Okay. I mean, if it's just like a style type of thing, okay, that's one thing. But if it's a lifestyle, maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah.
That's probably a lifestyle, and also he has a bicycle. I cannot imagine if somebody went to the date and there's a guy with a bicycle. Let's go.
A guy with a joint bicycle. He wore this cappy, like from Sherlock Holmes, Soviet Sherlock Holmes and everything. He actually really, I enjoyed this ride until I didn't, because it was lengthy walk, and but he was absolutely in love with this. So that was his life choices and lifestyle. I think he was a little bit cuckoo on the bicycle theme. So yeah.
Well, okay, but also there are people who are super aware of their health, right? On the other side of the spectrum, that are like, hey, no, we can only eat, this type of food, and we can only go to these type of places because, everything else is junk and you can't eat that. And you have to work out 5 times a week, and then 3 times during the weekend. I don't know. So there are people like that too, who drink protein milkshakes all the time, who think that the people who don't do that, they don't respect their bodies, et cetera, et cetera. So there are, different, I guess, extremes of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are vegan.
Yes, about extremes. I had a date where a guy was really fixated on access, and it was he was talking about every girl that he dated, every girl that he slept with, every girl that he wanted to sleep with, and it was such a mess. And he was asking me, like, on the first date, that I would tell him everything about myself, when it was the first time, what was the first guy that I really wanted, and he was so fixated on this because he thought that a girl cannot have like more than 10 or something men in her life, and if it's more, then it's something very bad, because it was long time ago, it was something about a woman's body remembers all the men that she's been with.
I heard that. Yes, like a woman's body remembers the DNA of all the men that she's ever slept with. And then she has her first baby. That first baby is actually like the first man's baby.
Yes. And he was so fixated on this stuff that I really was so, it was confusing at first, because I thought that he was joking. But then the conversation went really wild. And I really I didn't know how to run away from him fast enough.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
So you see that?
Um,
You see it? So I really applaud you two guys because you're out there and you're still, going on dates, even after meeting cuckoo people like that, one abducted by aliens, another one thinking about DNA of the first guy you ever slept with.
Oh yeah.
oh my God.
I
But girls, you
applaud
know,
you for still going out there and going on dates.
yeah, but you know what? The scene, dating scene, is changing all the time. Obviously, now it became very political, and the guys or the girls are very more flexible, right? We can adjust. The guys cannot. They know exactly what they want. If it doesn't, you don't have this, red hair or eyebrows, certain shape, or political views. They're not gonna do it. So right now, on their profiles, they put first of all, do you like or don't like Trump? That's one of the things around
Oh my
dating
gosh,
apps.
that's
It's
so absurd.
not kidding. Like almost like every second one, it has Trump love or
Oh, wait,
swipe
wait, wait. Oh, wait,
swipe
Natasha, do
left.
you think, do you think that's what you see? Because do you have like a certain age limit set on the thing?
Yes, but it's like it's forever. But yeah, obviously for 20s maybe, but I don't. I think in 20s kids pretty much they're all in liberal Democrat direction, so probably they're not gonna have that kind of thing. But the older you become, your political views are become differentiate and they become stronger. So this Trump situation started about like when his first term, I guess, but now it's like no one wants to breathe in your direction if you're different political views. People are insane about it. Then COVID is still a thing. If you vaccinated or wasn't vaccinated, it's still a thing on apps. And people said, I was vaccinated 25 times. Congratulations. That's what I'm looking for. That's
Avoid him
like
at all costs, Natasha.
but it's what is it a character trait right now if you were vaccinated or not? And then they put things like I like to travel to North Carolina, and so it's assumed that the like every 3 months. So he assumes that the woman will travel with him. So things like that. I want to go out every weekend on my boat. If the woman doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to date it. We are can adjust. We can be. If you don't want to go on a boat, okay, I can go with my girls. The man wants these things. It's that's one of the things why it's also difficult to find someone in America right now because things became political and how do you navigate here? How do you navigate here?
Yeah,
And
politics ruins everything. Yeah.
but it's not the same in Russia, right? It's not people are date
Well,
like
we don't talk about if we like Trump or not.
yeah,
But
but obviously.
yeah, but politics, yes, it does divide people, and unfortunately, it sometimes you just can't come up with a solution because if a person, even if you like the person and the person likes you, completely different views on the things that you don't have even control and a total knowledge about uh, really ruins it all. So I prefer not to talk about politics on the dates because it is more personal for me. It is my personal view. I don't want to share it just to anybody, even if a person that you know is as open as as someone, and he really just tells me everything about himself and says that I don't know, he hates Putin or Trump or whatever. I don't care. I tend to keep it to myself. And if he
Yeah.
probes me and if he pushes me, I will just walk away because it's not a theme on a date. It
On the
can
first
be a
date.
theme, yeah, on a first date, maybe on a third, maybe when you just know each other a little bit more intimate. I mean, you understand what the reaction you can get from a person, then you can do it. But politics, it's just a dirty topic. I don't like it.
So
Yeah.
in general, what I can gather from you two ladies is that the older you get, the harder it is to find someone to connect to because there's so many
Yeah.
different points that are so many check
100%.
marks that you're supposed to check. Because obviously, when you're young, it's kind of like if you're in love with the whole person. It doesn't matter, right? And
Yes.
Yeah.
maybe you don't have strong opinions about politics, about religion, about whatever else, and you can be shapeable. You can still kind of like change your mind or consider other options or consider other things. So that's true. That's true. And thinking about it really right now, if I were to go out and date right now, knowing what I know, being through what I've been through in my life, I probably would never find someone like to settle down with, because I have so many requirements now. Because when I was 18, there was not a lot of requirements.
This is so true. This is so true. We have our baggage, and with age, we have our experience. We're already looking back with our people
Yeah.
with our based on our experience. Our red flags are very different from what that I have. No, I had like no red flags. I didn't know what a red flag was. Now it's everything is a red flag. So when you were dating Nadia, for example, did you have this in mind? He's gonna pay. I'm gonna pay. Like, who paid on the first date? How did that go with when you met your husband?
You know what? I don't remember exactly, honestly. I don't think that was like, no. It wasn't really I guess I was very comfortable. I guess that's one of the things. And again, because he's older, he has this presence to him, right? That, he's in control of the situation and whatever. And we didn't even date that long, honestly, before we started living together, and then we got married. So everything went like super fast. There was not a lot of like a long contemplation period where I was like, oh, well, let me date this other guy and see if he's better, or comparing notes or comparing partners. There was no such thing. So I don't remember paying for any of the dates. No, that's true. But at that point, true. Also, I just came to the US. I didn't really have a steady job. Even if I wanted to pay, I probably wouldn't have paid.
But whatever
But
it
you know
was,
what?
it worked out.
Yeah, but you know what? Every time on the date, every time when you meet a person, it doesn't. You have to stand your ground. I mean, if a guy wants to get laid on the first date, if he wants you to go and cook for him, or praise his mother, or I don't know, like go and walk his dog, go on the beach with him, and you don't want it, you can just say, you do you, boo, and I'm gonna do mine. So the freedom to go away, it's this thing that keeps me in the dating, because I can walk away.
Yeah.
I'm not obliged to stay with this person forever and ever. And that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. So what are your green flags?
My green flags.
Yeah, when you go on a date.
Well, first of all, it's the sense of humor. I really like when a person knows how to laugh about himself, when he understands that, I'm not joking because I'm angry, stupid bitch. I'm joking because that's my character. I'm not gonna, hide it. Of course, if he really, well, the paying thing is also a green flag, of course, but not if he's paying just to show me that he's that macho man, that he's this, person who can owe me or something. No, but when it's a genuine thing, when he wants to not woo me, but to be a real gentleman, I guess. Red flags is about when a guy always talks about himself or about his exes. So that's for sure. But when he talks about his work, how much money does he have? What kind of car does he have? And this is so boring that I understand that he's so self-absorbed that there wouldn't be any place for me in his life.
Well, definitely. Also, yes, because usually you go on a date to get to know the other person, right?
Yeah.
To just spill all the information about yourself and be so happy about yourself and be like, oh, look at me, I'm so good. I'm perfect.
Once there was a date that one of my mother's friends, she orchestrated it. I genuinely felt like I was on an interview to get a job, because it was so frustratingly tense, and we were from a completely different worlds. He was a banker and I work in theater and in cinema, and he was like, what time do you go to bed? And I'm like, 2:00 in the morning, I guess, or something. Well, it's time when I wake up. Well, then I guess it's no match. And it was really, really awful, because I was really thinking that he's a HR and he's gonna, make my future bright. It was a disaster.
But
That's a money for you, that he wants to like know everything. He probably had like maybe a chip in his ear and like ask this question, ask this question.
also, again, it depends on what your intention is for an interview. And sometimes people really do conduct like an interview instead of a date when they're feeling that they're pressed for time, and they're like, oh no, I need to find someone like really quickly to like have a family, to to start a family, to have children, to do this, versus when you're just like, let me just be out there and have fun and meet fun people, right? Which is,
Well, there's a speed dating for this. And if you have a real, just an ordinary date, it must be relaxed, because if it's so tense, then where's the joy in this? Like, what are you getting from this?
no, I get it, but I think the way that you described it, it kind of sounded
Yeah.
like he's like, I need a wife right now. Like,
Yes, I need this, and this. And my accountant, please sign this copy.
Yeah, you're talking about it now, and I'm like that. I'm interviewing people. Like, I want to know all these questions before I can continue. I need to chill a little bit. Stop ordering stuff for myself. Stop like snapping fingers and being an interviewer instead of like just having a relaxed day. I remember because I have notes. I have notes, so I don't want to miss this
Oh my
note
gosh.
about the comment section. And that, remember
Yeah.
the video we're talking on TikTok, and because I want to mention it. The all comment section was in English, so it was from America, and most Americans, I guess, watch that TikTok. And all women were like, "I'm going to Russia. I want Russian men to myself. I don't want to pay for myself."
What they don't get is that, okay, yes, the quote unquote common mentality of post-Soviet Union countries is that yes, the man is supposed to, like Yulia says, woo you, and pay for you on the dates, and I don't know, give you flowers and all of that. But what they don't see that on the other side, when it actually becomes a serious relationship and becomes a marriage, right? How many things are switched back, and how many things the woman is expected to do after that конфетно-цветочный period, right? After that
Yeah.
period of like, oh yes, I'm gonna pamper you, I'm
The
gonna
honeymoon period, yeah.
lure you in, and then you're gonna work for me for the rest of your life.
Yes, and because we have a lot of this, baby man, сыночка корзиночка. When their mothers, they just pamper them like till 40 or 50 until they can, and they just think that their wives, she's going to continue doing this, and when she doesn't, it can get even aggressive in a way. So yeah, it doesn't worth it. So just stay in America.
Right. Make her your own coffee woman.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being with us today. Thank you for listening to our ramble again. If you like us, please subscribe, and obviously, but give us a thumbs up so that more people can find out about our podcast and more people can listen to us talking about all different things of life except for hard politics and religion. We don't do that. But come laugh with us, come talk with us, comment. We love you all, and until the next time.
Yes, and thank you so much, Yulia, for being with us today.
It was nice. It was really nice. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Bye. And we'll see you next time.